Hi guys, this is editorial analysis for 21st November 2016. Let's go to the first one. This article, I have clubbed two different editorials from two different newspapers, Economic Times and Indian Express. So this one piece, it contains points from both these editorials because both of them are basically talking about the same thing. So it's talking about some solutions to the problems that has been created by demonetization in our country. There are like 8 points. Firstly, we can use mobile payments infrastructure that the banking system has built up around the electronic backbone provided by the National Payments Corporation of India. Secondly, even without smartphones, people can pay using USSD, unstructured supplementary service data. For that you need your identifiers like mobile money identifier, MMID, and MPIN, mobile personal identification number, etc. Thirdly, we can use online wallets like Airtel Money. Fourthly, banks should provide overdraft facility on the use of cards. Fifthly, there should be education and awareness programs by NABARD regarding this scheme in rural areas. Sixthly, they should reduce stamp duty so that people expand their businesses honestly. Seventhly, they should introduce card swiping machines at agricultural mandis, etc. And eighthly, they should introduce special extension centers at petrol pumps, schools, etc. And recalibration of ATMs need to be done. So that's on solutions to the problems created by demonetization. Let's move on to the second editorial. This is also from The Hindu. So it talks about the UN conference on climate change that was held in Marrakesh recently. It talks about some of the outcomes. We'll discuss it in 4 points. Firstly, that during the conference an emphasis was laid on raising the commitment of all the countries to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Secondly, there were concerns regarding the fact that if US in future it'll decide to pull out from financing vulnerable and developing countries with climate funding, technology transfer and capacity building, etc. under the presidency of Trump, because Trump doesn't believe that global warming is happening. Thirdly, not much progress was made at Marrakesh on raising the $100 billion a year that is intended to help the poorer nations. And fourthly, India, even though it does not have the responsibility of accumulated emissions historically, and we have very less per capita emissions, but since our population is so large, when you accumulate all the emissions, it makes us the third largest emitter in the world of greenhouse gases. Thus, the pressure on us to cut the emissions has also increased. Let's move on to the third editorial. This says that, this is also from the Hindu newspaper. It says that India has emerged as a preferred investment destination in the recent years. So the author says that the strength of our policies and institutional frameworks, they have enabled us to rise as a preferred investment destination in the world, and we have to maintain that strength. We have to keep that momentum going. So firstly, he enlists a few things that can be counted as our strong policies and institutional frameworks. Firstly, we have e-auctioning of natural resources, very transparent process. Secondly, we have rule-based framework for Indian monetary policy. Thirdly, we have insolvency and bankruptcy code in place. Fourthly, we are coming out with GST from next financial year. Fifthly, there has been a restraint on unproductive spending amid plugging of subsidy leakage through direct benefit transfer. Sixthly, there has been a higher devolution of revenue to states and local self-government bodies. And seventhly, there has been given greater autonomy to states for spending on developmental plans. The author says that we need to codify our fiscal rules in the FRBMA Act to protect them from political maneuvers in the future. FRBMA, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. And we have to codify our fiscal rules, keeping in mind the changing global and domestic economic and financial order. Now this FRBMA, it was passed in 2003. The details of it are mentioned in macroeconomics NCRT class 12th book. Yes, my macroeconomics. But since that book was written in 2006, the further developments has not been taken into account in that book. So it says that this act was passed in 2003 to bring a revenue deficit to 0 and fiscal deficit to 3% by the fiscal year 2008. But global financial crisis happened in the year 2008. The government, because of this financial crisis, the government had to spend a lot of money to revive growth, and so the deadline for reducing the fiscal deficit to 3% was pushed later, and it was suspended altogether after that. However, in the 2016 budget, the finance minister talked about reviewing the FRBMA. The author says that we need an independent constitutional body as a watchdog to oversee the implementation of FRBMA 2.0 as and when it comes. And also we have to arrive at appropriate figures of fiscal deficit targeting, etc. So these are some of the things that we have to keep in mind when we review the FRBMA. So that's it for 21st November 2016. Thank you.